This is Twisted Passages with award-winning author Marie Sutro. Now, let's take a deep dive into the dark world of psychological thrillers and meet the authors who created them.
Hello, and welcome to Twisted Passages. I'm your host, Marie Sutro, and today we have award-winning author Carmen Amato here to talk about her new release, Barracuda Bay. Welcome.
Thank you, Marie. It's great to be here.
I am so excited to dig into this book. You took us to Acapulco and all the sights and sounds, but before we dig in, can you start listeners off with an overview of what the story is about?
Well, Barracuda Bay is the latest release in the Detective Emilia Cruz series set in Acapulco. She is the first female police detective in Acapulco. So she's dealing with not only drug cartels, but official corruption and Mexican machismo. So that's sort of the undercurrent of the series. But this is number 9, although it can be read as a standalone as you read it. And it opens with probably the best scene that I've written, where a young assassin is trying to make a name for himself. And I won't go into what that startling first scene is, but Emilia discovers the body of a woman who has been killed by this young assassin, although she does not know it, in a building that was previously used for a failed attempt to take down a drug kingpin's distribution network. So she's assigned to the case, which is made a little more complicated because the victim is the mayor's sister. The mayor is running for re-election, and it's a very tough fight. And as Emilia investigates, she thinks that perhaps the prime suspect is the victim's ex-boyfriend. And just when she's about to make her arrest, she's sent on an errand of mercy to Washington, D.C. And there, everything changes. You're nodding, yes. It turns out that the wife that she was supposed to comfort, whose husband had died in Mexico, doesn't exist. So one thing leads to another. Emilia is in Washington, D.C. She doesn't have a coach. She doesn't have a phone. She doesn't have any money. She is totally stranded on her own in a very tough situation. And the only person that she can reach out to is a man she once vowed to kill, who is her brother and also a federale law enforcement agent. That's kind of how I write. Very layered plots, a lot of drama, and a very strong protagonist, a female protagonist who you want to root for, but she has got a lot to deal with.
Emilia is super strong, and as you said, this can totally be read as a standalone. It was my first introduction to your series, and I absolutely fell in love with Emilia. She is just everything that you want that strong protagonist to be. First of all, she's not perfect, which none of us are, so that's very relatable. But she brings together all of those key components that you need as a good detective and wraps them up in just such a compelling way. You can't meet Emilia and not immediately be pulling out the pom-poms and cheering for her. She is just too cool. Now, Emilia works in Acapulco, and there is this political component that is happening at the same time. There is an election looming, and there is a tie to the political candidate. And what I thought was so brilliant is the political candidate is female. So there's a really interesting play there in terms of the dynamics that women face. And you have these two very strong women who are wrapped up in this case, sitting on different points in the field of play.
Mm-hmm.
But they're both facing a lot of the same issues. You've gone so far with Emilia with all of these books, and I'm hoping that she is going to stay around for many, many more books. What was it about Strong Women for you? Were there certain women in your life, or how did that work? And maybe in your own background and what you've done.
I'm a 30-year veteran of the CIA. So I came in to the agency actually the day after President Reagan's second inauguration. And at that point, women were just starting to take on leadership roles at the agency. So I met a lot of very strong women willing and interested in pursuing an intelligence career. That really didn't seem out of the norm for me to write strong women. I feel like I'm a strong woman in the things that I've done. My friends are strong. My mom, who just passed last year, very, very strong-willed person. So when I wrote Detective Emilia Cruz, I knew that she was going to have to be a strong person to deal with all the slings and arrows of what she's going to encounter in Mexico. But I didn't want her to be the only one. From the beginning, I always pictured Salma Hayek as the mayor of Acapulco. And through the series, the mayor, Carlotta, and Emilia, they are at times rivals, they are at times allies. It's a very gray relationship. It waxes and wanes. At the beginning, of course, the mayor is very upset. She finds out her sister's dead, and she's very snappish in the way that Emilia gets assigned to the case. Throughout, the woman's very stressed because of the election, but in the end, she's going to do Emilia a favor. Of course, now, what does Emilia owe her in return? These threads weave their way through the series, these relationships and how they twist and turn, help and hurt Emilia. Very real life.
Very real life. And that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, especially with your background. One of the things that you address in this and play so well is loyalty, especially within Emilia's team. Who are the people who are going to be loyal to her? Who can she count on? And the way that the people that we think are loyal can sometimes surprise us, because at the end of the day, everyone kind of has to look out for themselves. As much as we care about other people, sometimes we still have to look out for ourselves, and what does that mean, and how do we perceive it on the receiving end? So maybe given your background especially, I'm guessing loyalty was very important in the work that you did. Do you think it is as important to all of us, and how important is it as a life skill?
Oh my, what a great question. Loyalty as a life skill. I'm not sure people really think about it in those terms. More like loyalty is an expediency in this minute. What am I loyal to, seen through the lens of my own wants and needs? In the series, loyalty is an issue, starting right from book one called Cliff Diver, because who's going to be loyal to the only woman in the detective squadron that nobody wanted? In a prequel series of short stories, Emilia literally wins the right to fight her way into the squadron. And the senior detective at the time, who eventually becomes her partner and her boss, Franco Silvio, is the last person that she can expect loyalty from. Through the series, writing their interaction has been the most fun ever, frankly. And of course, in Barracuda Bay, things really come to a head when he is offered an incentive to be disloyal to her. No matter what they've been through, all these years together, the highs and the lows, she saves him, he saves her. And what's her reaction, and how do they resolve this? I think a key thing from my background is not so much disloyalty, but when people have such differing views, they are on opposite ends of the topic, but you still have to work together. So how do you make an accommodation to work together, get things done, move whatever project is forward? That is probably a skill of being able, both sides, to compromise and say, we connect on this, we're going to put this to the side because we are mission focused. And that is more important than individual needs.
And it's fascinating. I think you're absolutely right. That is the skill. If there is no loyalty, or if you have come to question loyalty with someone, you can't force it. And once it comes into question, there's always going to be a question.
Right.
And like you said, it's how do we navigate beyond that? Because I think it is something that we all look for in whatever relationships, whether it's coworkers, in this case, her coworker relationships, it's life and death, whether someone's loyal sometimes. But, family, friends, intimate relationships, whatever it is, I think we all look for some level of it. And it's almost this currency that we look for. And you're right. When the currency isn't there, what do you do?
And in the book, there are moments of such high tension, of such high conflict, that they almost act as a reset button for the relationship. They've survived this moment. Okay, we can draw back and take stock and move forward from there, having this shared drama to connect us.
And that really goes to how well you crafted Emilia as a character, because her ability to keep her eyes on the goal and see what's important to her. Could you talk a little bit about the lost women and what they mean to Emilia? Because that was, again, just such a beautiful side of her personality. She's very clear about who she's trying to help at all times.
This is definitely something that I took away from my own experiences as a technical collector dealing with counter drug issues at the agency. Emilia keeps a notebook full of records of women who have gone missing from the Acapulco region. And she calls them Las Perdidas, the lost ones. It is a theme throughout the series that she is looking for missing women. It's funny, I just wrote about projects in Mexico embroidering the names of people who have gone missing or women who have died by femicide in Mexico to serve as a reminder, but also to raise awareness. There's a lot of denial and inaction happening. I just finished that not half hour ago for my Substack newsletter. So this is something that runs through the series. She's always a subplot, as I said, looking for women who have gone missing. And in the next book, that whole issue revolves around a missing customs agent. So I won't get too ahead of things.
Ooh, a teaser. I love it. I love it. Those relationships and how deftly Emilia navigates them. In this story, you gave her a relationship that was pretty brutal to navigate. Mm. And that was the relationship with her brother. Their past is one of the most difficult, I think. It's one of those situations where we all look at things and say, well, I had this, but Emilia had that. Oh, Emilia, how are you even sitting next to this guy? So how did you decide to push that over the arc of the series so hard and then her with it?
This series arc started with book number 5, Pacific Reaper, in which she is looking into a voodoo-like cult. And it turns out that the man running the cult is using the cult as a front for a human trafficking scheme. She gets caught up during the investigation into the scheme. One thing leads to another, and she finds out through DNA that he is her brother. That goes back to a whole, big family secret, what happened, etc. In the subsequent books, she finds out more about him. And in book number 8, Narco Noir, she actually runs into him again and realizes or learns what he was doing in book 5. That kind of changes a little bit, but it never changes his attitude toward what he did to her, which he barely remembered. She was just one of many. So somebody said after they read it, "You're not going to do a redemption arc, are you?" And this character is going to appear again. He will always be a gray character, though. He's not totally bad, but he is not a character to love.
It's so great to have someone like that, because I think in all of our lives, we have people that we struggle. We want to love them, or we want to like them, or we want to even work with them, but there's things about them that are so egregious in this way or that way, or we've been harmed, obviously not as badly as Emilia has, but in different ways from people. Watching her struggle with that, even on a professional level, to achieve what she needs to achieve, was very inspirational. I thought the way that you handled that was very beautiful, actually, which then sparked another question I wanted to ask you about. There was a great scene where 2 characters are sitting together, and it's very short, but they have a moment where they daydream together. And that was especially beautiful to me. In the midst of all these harrowing things that are happening in this fast-paced thriller plot, there was a moment for people to breathe and think, what if? I loved that. And it just, it made my heart sing when you had that scene. Where did that scene come from?
I wanted him to finally have a what if on his journey to finally acknowledging his sins. He needed to have at least one heartbeat of maybe that life could have been different. But it also speaks to, he's a very damaged person. And even though they are daydreaming together, Emilia knows that he is damaged, and his daydream it could never happen. So we just needed that little moment to show a side of that character that let you say, okay, maybe he's a little bit redeemable, but he's also quite damaged, and this is never going to happen.
As I said, it was absolutely beautiful, just as beautiful as all of the sights and the sounds and the smells of Acapulco that you brought to life so beautifully. I feel like it was my mini vacation, bought and paid for by you, Carmen. Thank you so much.
A little combination of salt and sunscreen and maybe a little mojito.
Yeah, I could taste the ceviche. It was beautiful. And I just absolutely loved it. Like I said, you really have a knack for creating a fast-paced thriller that still takes the time to let us breathe and feel. And I absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much. Very kind.
You are welcome. Now, this was my first in your series. I will definitely be looking for everyone that comes out after this. But for your existing fans and for newbies like me, where is the best place for folks to find out what's coming up next for you?
The best place is my Substack newsletter, which is mysteryahead.substack.com. Every 2 weeks, I share my top secrets and an excerpt of what I'm writing now. So if you subscribe, you're going to get those breadcrumbs that are going to lead you to the next book. You get those little highlights of what's going to happen with Emilia And of course, her fiance, Kurt Rucker, who manages a luxury hotel, and, research is all, right? And her on again, off again partner in the police department, Franco Silvio.
Awesome. And just for listeners, so they know, the next book that's coming out, when and what's the title?
The title is Dragon Cartel, and this will have a Chinese element, but it is mostly going to be a split between Emilia's hunt for a missing customs agent. Of course, the port of Acapulco, a critical setting here, and the hunt for the young assassin who styles himself El Barracuda from Barracuda Bay. So, oh dear, was that a spoiler at the end of Barracuda Bay as to who gets away? But we are looking at I think it's 30 March 2026 release date.
Perfect. Well, again, I just absolutely loved Barracuda Bay. Can't wait for the next one. If you want to get out and go take a quick trip to Acapulco without all the lines through customs, get out and get Carmen's Barracuda Bay.
Thank you. Let me do a shout out to Matt Chase, who designs all the Detective Emilia Cruz covers. He is so great, and he's already coming up with great ideas for Dragon Cartel.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining me. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Twisted Passages. We hope to see you next time.